it is my own personal rule that I will not rate a book 1 star. But this book was so unforgivably bad that I wanted to rate it 1 star. If I were the Minister of Education, I would undoubtedly ban this book. This type of stories can ruin people's lives more than books with vulgar sex scenes. What is up you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hari ini di segmen A Good Book, Gemar Diskusi Buku, gue pengen ranting panjang lebar tentang 2 buku yang gue baca di bulan Oktober kemarin. Berhubung ini ranting video tentang 2 novel Wattpad yang punya fanbase garis keras, gue akan pakai bahasa Inggris untuk mengurangi kemungkinan berdebat dengan orang-orang yang logikanya nggak nyampe atau nggak bisa diajak berpikir kritis dan objektif dalam menilai sebuah karya fiksi. By the way, ada jarak beberapa minggu dari gua baca buku itu dan gua rekam video ini. Jadi kalau misalkan ada detail-detail yang kurang akurat, mohon dimaafkan. Sumpah, beres baca buku ini tuh otak gua kayak otomatis mengaktifkan defense mechanism dengan cara melupakan sebagian besar konten dari buku-buku ini, karena kalau enggak gue kayaknya bakal emosi berkepanjangan. I'd be talking about these 2 books that I read through Gramedia Digital. First up, ACC Pak by Rara Rachel. I buddy read this with my friend and we had a good time shit talking about it. This story is about a university student named Yaya who wanted to finish her thesis quickly and graduated ASAP. However, there was this one hot widower with 1 kid / a lecturer named Daniel who was very smart but also very strict. He would never approve a half-assed thesis, he would ask a lot of questions, he would criticize her research method, basically just making her life as miserable as possible. But apparently Daniel was a good old friend of Yaya's brother, so they got to hang out and spend time together outside campus a lot. Gradually, both of them started to fall in love with each other, and at the end, they live happily ever after. Just the classic romance stories. When I first knew about the book, my friend proposed to me that we buddy read this together. I already had a feeling that I wouldn't like this book because 1, it's from Wattpad. I'm sorry, it's just so hard for me not to have any prejudice towards romance Wattpad stories. 2, because of the student-teacher trope. If you watched my previous videos about romance book tropes, you'd know I hate student-teacher trope. It's just a big ew for me. But I decided to give this book a chance, and I truly was reading it with an open mind until red flags started to pop up here and there. One red flag that first caught my eye was the fact that Daniel and his kid showed up at Yaya's apartment without prior notice so early in the morning, barged in, and then just told her to get dressed and then he will prepare breakfast for the 3 of them. He literally just wandered around that apartment like he owned the space. I am a very private person. I'm pretty sensitive when it comes to properties, personal spaces, personal belongings. So that shit really ticked me off. Like, who the hell he think he is? Barging in like that. They were not even that close yet. They just hung out a couple of times, but that's it. For me, it was impolite, almost like an abuse of power, because Yaya wouldn't be able to reject Daniel even though she wanted to, because he was her lecturer. Her thesis is in his hands. The reason why he barged in that morning is to ask Yaya to accompany him to his kids first day in the kindergarten. People automatically assumed that she was Kyla's mother. In my opinion, he shouldn't have put her in that kind of awkward situation when they have no relationship whatsoever except that they were student and teacher. Although his intention meant well, he didn't want Kyla to feel left out because other kids came with both mom and dad. I still don't think that Yaya is the right person to accompany him to the kindergarten. He could have asked, I don't know, his brother's wife? This happened again when he asked Yaya to accompany him to a friend's wedding. Once again, people assumed that she was Daniel's wife-to-be, and he didn't bother to correct them at all. Yaya was left alone to answer all the questions, to react to the teasings by herself. And after he put her through all of that shit, he had the audacity to snap at her just because he felt jealous that Yaya met a handsome young guy, an old friend of hers named Ares. I just don't get it. Why did he feel like he had the rights to feel jealous when they had no relationship whatsoever? And she literally had been helping him out since day one. So this is so unacceptable. Daniel was an ungrateful asshole. Oh, there is this one red flag that awakened my feminist soul. It happened when he picked up Yaya at the apartment before they went to the wedding. He told her to change her lipstick color because it didn't look good on her, because pink apparently was too much on her. To all men out there, let us girls do our makeup the way we want it to. We didn't put makeup for you. We put makeup for ourselves. You didn't even pay for our expensive makeup kits. You know what? I get it. The author wanted to convey that Daniel liked Yaya's natural beauty more than when she wore makeup. But please, there are tons of other ways to say that you like a girl's natural beauty aside from telling her to change her lipstick color. My partner, for example, he always adores everything, whatever shit I'm wearing. If you know me personally, you know that I have tried a lot of different hairstyles, a lot of different hair colors. I've been wearing different style of makeup and outfits because I work as a dancer, and he always compliments me on any of them. But when we had a sleepover with my sister, I was barefaced and I only wore like an old PJs. He looked me in the eye and said that compared to the times when I put makeup on or put fashionable outfits on, he liked me this way best. This is the first time a 2D guy is worse than a real guy. I am so conflicted whether I should feel disappointed or happy about this fact. Next red flag. And this one was pretty triggering if you've been in a toxic relationship. He knew that she was dense AF, but he kept saying things vaguely. He kept sending codes, and then he got mad and gave her silent treatment when she didn't react or behave the way that he wanted her to. There were a lot of scenes like this. Yaya was miserable as hell. She was the one chasing him down, begging him to forgive her while he avoided her like a plague. He even had the guts to sabotage Yaya's thesis. He refused to give her the counseling that she needed. He refused to sign the thesis. The unprofessionalism. This is just textbook toxic relationship that all influencers and Instagram quote accounts are trying to warn us about. Next red flag, the classic possessive streak. He was jealous of every guys in Yaya's vicinity. It's almost like Yaya was not allowed to have any guy friends. And the worst part was, he took out his frustration, his jealousy on alcohol like a melodramatic high schooler who just had his first heartbreak. No offense, a high schooler doing all this shit is very understandable. You're young, you're dumb, you're full of hormones that you are so unstable. But for a 32-year-old widower with a kid to do this? When they finally dated each other, Daniel found out that Yaya wanted to pursue higher education abroad. Again, he got mad. Daniel, who got his master's degree at Cambridge University, should have been the one who understood Yaya's need to study abroad best. But you know what he did? He asked her to get married quickly, and he used his kid, Kyla, as a leverage, saying that Kyla needed a maternal figure. Of course, Yaya got angry and she felt like Daniel was looking for a nanny, a babysitter, instead of a girlfriend or a wife. And I agreed with her. Like, she had all the rights to be pissed at Daniel. Man, I kinda ship her with the unproblematic second male lead, Ares, instead. Anyways, they both got mad for quite some time before they finally talked it out, and this kind of things happened in the story a lot. Basically, they both were super bad at communicating and problem solving like an adult. Yaya was still 22 years old in this story, so I could kinda tolerate her flaws and all that. But Daniel though, he became a widower because his wife passed away in an accident, so it's not like they were divorced or anything. So I don't get it, like why he was so terrible at all this. Almost like he was a virgin who had never been in a relationship at all. My conclusion is, apart from all these red flags that needs fixing, I think the biggest flaw in this book is the character inconsistencies. For example, Daniel was described as a smart guy who graduated from Cambridge University, meaning that he had lived abroad for quite some time. In my experience, usually people who have lived abroad are more open-minded than people who haven't. There's this huge difference in the way that they're thinking because they are exposed to the Western cultures, which have more liberties than Eastern cultures. But here, Daniel behaved like a primitive caveman with his narrow-minded brain and over-possessive streak. He also didn't behave like he was a smart guy or like he's been married. So it's very difficult for me to understand this character, to sympathize with them, to actually believe in the motivations of why they're doing things or why they behave in certain ways. Yaya, for example, she claimed to have a GPA of 3.7, meaning that she was smart, right? But throughout the book, she was described as a super dense girl who didn't get any of Daniel's advances. I tried to understand her point of view. I think it was just hard for her to believe that her lecturer fell in love with her. But for her to still not get it after her brother literally spell it out loud for her. That was just unbelievable, because she had a 3.7 GPA. Was she cheating on her test or what? Anyways, I ended up rating it 3 stars on Goodreads. The only salvation of this book is the writing style. Yeah, some of the scenes were lacking in motivations, and there were a lot of scenes that had like a too good to be true kind of coincidence. But overall, all the sentences flowed nicely. Yaya's inner thoughts when she was pissed at Daniel were pretty entertaining to read. Next book, Romankasa by Kilmil. The story is about a girl named Clarissa who ran away from home because she was tired being compared to her genius twin sister, Clarina. She ran away to Jakarta and got hired as the personal assistant of a renowned actor, Daniel, who was a very prickly dude. Throughout the book, both of them gradually developed feelings for each other and they ended up together. Isn't it funny though that both toxic male lead characters in these books have similar names like Daniel and Daniel? Before we get to the juicy rantings, I would like to let you know in advance that it is my own personal rule that I will not rate a book 1 star. As a fellow writer, I understand how difficult it is to finish a book. Thus, every writer deserves an appreciation with a minimum of 2 stars rating. But this book was so unforgivably bad that I wanted to rate it 1 star. Fortunately though, this book is not registered in Goodreads and I will not be the one to register this book in Goodreads and slander the heck out of it. So I am safe from the corruption arc, from turning into the bad guy and rating a book 1 star. I also want to let you know in advance that this book was so terrible. I decided to talk about ACC first so that I didn't sound super mean when I talked about Romankasa, because literally Romankasa is like all the red flags in ACC times 10. Before we get to the problematic parts, the main difference between ACC and Romankasa is the writing style. This book had terrible writing style. To show you how terrible it was, I'm going to read the first 2 pages of this book. Hey guys, last night I completely forgot to record the part where I am supposed to read the first 2 pages of Romankasa for you. So right now I'm going to do it. I'm not going to read like the whole 2 pages. I'm just going to read several sentences that would prove my point. Adalah hari yang begitu menyebalkan bagi Tara yang masih terus mengumpat sepanjang perjalanannya menuju kamar lelaki tengil itu. Ia benar-benar tidak habis pikir dengan kelakuan si tengil yang benar-benar tengil itu. Sebenarnya Nyonya Nirina Handoyo yang cantik ngidam apa sih sampai lahir anak yang tengilnya ampun-ampunan begitu? Tengil, lo tuh bener-bener ya. Tara yang geram atas tingkah sang adik segera masuk ke dalam kamar lalu memukul kepala si tengil yang sedang berselonjor di atas kasur. Kenapa lo tolak tawaran itu, tengil? Tara menarik nafas dalam. Ia tahu ia takkan pernah menang berdebat dengan Daniel karena tak pernah mengerti jalan pikiran adiknya yang tengil itu. Terserah, gue nyerah menghadapi orang tengil macam lo. Laki-laki tengil itu susah sekali cocok dengan orang lain. While it's true that you could mention a character's trait a few times until the readers truly grasp your character's trait, this was just too much. Also, you don't really need to mention a character's trait if you were able to show it properly in your writings through scenes. There were a lot of inefficient sentences and weird dialogues in this book, but I am not going to talk about it because ain't nobody got time for that. Time is money. On to the red flags. Compared to the ACCPA, at least the author told us how Daniel changed for the better. Yes, I put an emphasis on the word told because I didn't see him change one bit. It's just the author trying to tell me that he changed. But anyways, at least throughout the stories, I can see that Daniel was desperately in love with Yaya and he admired her. But in Romankasa, my goodness God, basically Clarissa was a dumb bitch who couldn't do shit, helplessly romantic that she was often in her head, and she had no manners whatsoever. She did a lot of weird ass shit that would get her fired had this happened in real life. I have worked with a few artists as a choreographer and as a dancer, and I have seen the way they interact with their personal assistants. So I know that no matter how kind the artists are, there's just this limit to how audacious a personal assistant can be. Clarissa slept on Daniel's bed without his permission. She was giving him attitudes when she got scolded. She brought her personal belongings into Daniel's apartment and she just went no-show without any prior notice due to assumptions. And of course, the prickly Daniel, who usually just fired his assistants for doing the tiniest bit of mistake, was so smitten by this quirky, cute ass shit that Clarissa was doing that he ended up falling in love instead of firing her. If being an incompetent dumb bitch could get me an actor as a boyfriend, I would have dated 5 by now. Anyways, even though that he fell in love with her, he refused to admit that he was in love with her. He would do all kinds of shit to hurt her feelings, to make her believe that he didn't like her one bit. Also, he would constantly think badly of her, like how stupid and clumsy she was. And if she cried, he would buy her ice cream, forced her to eat it, and then that's it. No apologies needed. He also punched the guy that Clarissa met up with out of jealousy, even though he had no relationship whatsoever with her, even though he still insisted that he didn't have any feelings for her. When they finally got together, the author also gave us like a few extra chapters to show how lovey-dovey they were. And you know what? I just skimmed it through because it's just so hard for me to believe that a toxic guy like Daniel could change that quickly when he didn't even have any redemption arc whatsoever, aside from him receiving punches from Clarissa's cousin, which he deserved. Funny thing is, me and my friend both looked up how old the writer was. Cause honestly, I was just so worried for her, okay? Like, how come you wrote all these red flags and thought of them as romantic? When I check her Wattpad, this book has millions of reads. I checked the comment sections, everybody was praising her. You know what? As a fellow writer, I am truly happy for Kill Mail, honestly. You succeeded in conquering Wattpad. That's huge. And then you got your book published. That's great. But a human being though. I am so worried for the author. I am so worried for the readers of this book. Like, I don't want you guys to think of all these red flags as romantic, and I don't want you guys to get into toxic relationship because of your false mindset. It's not like you cannot write toxic male leads or toxic traits in books. Of course you can, but execution matters the most in this type of stories, or else you are glorifying or romanticizing toxic relationships. If I were the Minister of Education, I would undoubtedly ban this book. This type of stories can ruin people's lives more than books with vulgar sex scenes. I said what I said, sorry not sorry, and if I didn't show up next week, I am probably on the run from the fans of Kill Mail and Rara Rachel who wanted me dead. Even so, please still go like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications bell button if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!